been a while since we had George Haas on the program. I've always trying to find an excuse to get George on the program, or anybody who is working, imaging, discussing, analyzing Mars. And as you all know, I am uh, have a great interest in the phenomena of Mars because there is, to my mind, evidence of a lost civilization. There is archaeology all over the planet. It's from top to bottom, and not just Cydonia. It seems like every single month there's a new area that's being imaged and data is being released by NASA, and it's profound. It's profound. So we have with us today the return of George Haas, but we also have uh, William Saunders, who co-wrote with Dr. Robert Schoch, who's not with us today, a paper called Mars, Geological Formation or Archaeology, Square-Shaped Structure Within the Arabia Terra Crater. Excuse me. And this was a paper that appeared in the Journal for Astrobiology. And it's not only an eye opener, but it's a great paper. I am going to make it available to you listeners by going to either the Earth Ancients Facebook page, you'll find it there, or my link, which is just Cliff Dunning on Facebook. I'll have it there as well with the graphic. So, George, William, welcome to Earth Ancients. Great to have you on the program.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
First question to you, George. How did you get Robert Schoch to jump on board on this one? This seems like kind of out of his expertise, but perhaps not.
Well, Bill and I have co-wrote about 6 papers dealing with artificial structures and anomalies on Mars. And Bill and I both are members of the Cydonia Institute. And we had another member, Michael Dale, who was also a geologist. And he passed away recently, a couple of years ago, which we were shocked. I didn't even know he was ill. And when we do these papers, you have to, a lot of these fringe type science that we're working with, the publishers, they want at least 2 geologists on this paper, or 2 or a physicist or somebody with a science background to give it some legitimacy. So we lost Michael Dale, and I'm sure you remember back in the beginning of the year, I contacted you because I know you interview a lot of people that deal with anomalies on Earth and Mars, the moon, things like that. And I asked you, I said, Cliff, do you know a geologist that might be interested in joining our paper? And you got back to me and you said, try Robert Schoch. You gave me his email. I guess you had contacted him to make sure it was okay. And I sent him out an email asking him if he'd be interested in working on this paper with us. I gave him a little idea of what it was, this square formation on Mars. And he got back with me and said, yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it. So I sent it to him. And a few days later, he sends it back. And he already did his analysis of the formation, and he added his name to the paper. We were like shocked. I contacted Bill. We couldn't believe it. Bill had worked on some of the geology, and Robert just added to that, and it came out beautifully. And what I was surprised, he actually added his name to the paper that he was on board.
Wow.
And after we were shocked from that,
So to speak.
he actually sent us some journals that we could send the paper to, and we sent it out to this Journal of Astrobiology. And they accepted it pretty quickly. We had to make a few changes of some of the reporting that we did in the paper, but it went pretty smoothly. I mean, it was like a miracle. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I wasn't really too familiar with Robert Schoch, but once you told me that he wanted to get involved, I looked at his credentials and I was pretty impressed. And it's always nice to, my background isn't actually geology, it's geomorphology. So it's always nice to have another scientist on board, especially a geologist. And Robert had done co-authored or worked on a number of papers about Mars, so it wasn't totally new to him.
Oh, well, tell me, Bill, what had he worked on? Was he featured in a paper or a book of some kind? What did he
Yeah,
say?
I believe they were papers. It's a while ago now. I don't really remember, but he had a list of articles that he had written. Whether they were actually published science papers, I'm not sure. But he had a whole list, and there was 3 or 4 that were about Mars. Others were about unusual structures on Earth and things. He's been to South America numerous times to investigate ancient geoglyphs and geology down in Peru mostly.
Right. What makes this paper, not only is it important, but makes it unique, is the fact that you are taking images that, and I'm going to ask each of you to give your definition, but just off the top of my head, you are showing the foundations of significantly large buildings that have been imaged from a satellite. And the shape, the geometric shape, makes them immediately artificial. But what other features are we looking for, George, when we are looking at these? I mean, I'm calling them foundations. Is there another name for them?
Yeah, there are structural foundations. This square formation does appear to be the remains of a foundation. But when you're looking at structures on Mars or buildings or just regular mounds and formations, we always revert back to the quotes Carl Sagan, where he says that intelligent life on Earth reveals itself through the geometry and regularity of its construction. So if you're finding geometry on another planet, things that have right angles, rectangles, squares, that's not something you normally find in nature. It's something that would be created naturally. And you could talk more to Bill about that. But if you start seeing geometry, pyramids and square shapes, triangular shapes, all kinds of geometry, then you're looking at something that possibly is artificial.
Yeah. Bill, when we look at this and we think of the engineers that work at JPL, what is their response going to be? I mean, I'm not sure they're reading the Journal of Astrobiology, but this is a pretty obvious phenomenon of artificiality.
Well, there's been a lot of people discovering things that look totally artificial. They look out of place for a planet that never was inhabited by any intelligent beings, and it's dead silence out of NASA. They never JPL. They never really comment unless there's something that they've got to quash. But I don't know how many times has this been photographed, George? This square.
Well, what everybody was talking about when this first came back into the public eye, they were looking at the old 2001, the 2001 image from the Mars Global Surveyor. But recently, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is a higher resolution camera, that's taken like 8 to 10 pictures of it, including maybe a couple of Themis images. But yeah, there's a lot of images of this formation that confirm its shape.
Yeah, well, one thing Cliff, George, and I have noticed is if there's something unusual, they do tend to photograph it numerous times. So we know from that fact that they did notice it. Let's put it that way. And I don't necessarily think that it was a building so much as it was probably a fortress, a walled city, village, whatever just by the lack of the amount of rubble surrounding it. It looks very much like it was a walled enclosure of some sort. And one side does people come up, well, it's not continuous. The one side, it's not continuous. Well, you're going to have an entranceway, usually a pretty large entranceway. So that's a possibility. But I did notice that there was basically a lack of rubble around it for any sort of high building to have been. But then again, we don't know how old this is and how much erosion may have occurred. The one southern wall, I believe it is right on the edge of a cliff. And you can see where, of course, over time, cliff edges erode. And it was probably the cause of the lack of definition of a wall on that side. But my belief is that it was a walled enclosure.
We don't know. I spoke to Gene Ward the other day, and he was telling me that in a lot of images that are pyramidal, he believes that much of the planet was covered in water, and some of these pyramids were underwater. And through receding water, the sediment, sand, and whatever is covering them. What is your feeling on this foundation? Is it just age that we're seeing and the wind blowing sand over the walls? What, as a geologist, would you say are some of the definitive signs of weathering from what source?
Well, we do know that now, although they denied it for many years. We do know now that Mars had water on it, and there's
Right.
evidence of oceans and whatnot. So, but this structure is on top of a cliff. Now, the entire thing is inside a massive crater. So, first off, you're going to have, assuming it's an impact crater, which it most likely is, you're not going to have geometric structures. You're going to have radial. Anybody who's dropped a rock into a mud puddle or anything knows everything comes out radially. It doesn't come out into geometric patterns. So the weathering that is evident that there is weathering is the material that has gathered, and you can see underneath. Well, I shouldn't say you can see underneath. You can tell by the way that the material is deposited. There is indications that it's going over something that is underneath, a lineal feature that is underneath, and it, in different photographs that we have of it, some of them are very clear that there is a linear feature underneath that the debris has gone over. Now, Mars could have had all the geomorphological features that Earth, processes, I should say, that Earth has had, possible glaciation. NASA has recorded hundreds of seismic events over the years. And and there's also indication of water could have been below this, because there's channel areas, channel features below the cliff. So there could have been weathering.
Yeah.
And regardless that NASA claims that the water was billions of years ago, I don't think there's evidence for that. That's just their speculation. But yeah, there could have been water erosion, wind erosion, seismic activity which brought the walls down, or there could have been conflict that destroyed the structure to what's left of it.
Right.
But there is definitely evidence of erosion.
George, can you share your screen? Let's take a look at this. Go ahead and open the image. You want to start anywhere you want. You can go to page 55 or 50. Excuse me, 53.
Yeah, well, it says you have to disable the screen sharing. You got this. I think you have it blocked.
No, you go ahead and go open it, and it'll ask me for permission. Share at the very bottom.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's not letting me get in there. It says the host has disabled it.
Okay.
That's you.
So I was saying.
Well, I think we got yours now.
Right, but I don't want to share my screen. I want to share to you. So.
Right.
Yeah, at the green button at the bottom, just click it, and it'll ask me for permission.
Okay, maybe I didn't wait. I clicked it.
Okay, you should be ready to go.
It's not working there, brother. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, just give me a second here, Cliff. Where am I? Okay.
Take your time. You can probably just open the whole paper.
I'm trying to get into it. Oh, here we go. Hold on. All right, I have it up on my screen now, but we're not sharing for some reason. It should give us a share.
Let's see here.
What do we got here? View. Okay. Sometimes it takes a second for it to load up or something.
Okay.
What do we got here? Okay. All right, we're sharing with you.
So I can see a desktop. Whose desktop is
that? That's my desktop.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not, because this would be great if we could get this working. Now I see Bill on the screen. Oh, here it is. I got it. Hold on.
There you go.
See that? You got that? All right. Well, it's very slow. It's done this before when I've been on some of these programs. It takes a while for it to get going.
So can you expand it to the whole screen so we can see yeah.
Right. That's what we're looking at here. Okay. Okay. How's that?
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Here we go.
Talk about this. So did you find this, or who found it, George?
From our memory, we think that Richard Hoagland was the one that brought this to everybody's attention back on the old Enterprise mission.
Oh my God! What, 2001, 2, or something?
Yeah, well, it's a long time ago. So Bill and I and people that do this, over 24 years ago, we all talked about this. This is old news. I was surprised that people brought this up because this was one of the first structures and things we all looked at back in 2001.
Okay.
And, it was pretty fascinating. But since this, we've found, full pyramids, all kinds, much more evidence that shows there's artificial structures on Mars. So we were kind of like surprised that, Joe Rogan was getting all excited about this and calling it wild, and inviting Elon Musk to look at it, and this was all over the internet in the beginning of the year. I mean, everybody was talking about this. Yeah. It's like, really, you're excited about this? And we've got much better stuff than this.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd, take a look at it, and we actually.
But let me just stop you for a minute, George, because you and I both know the biggest problem with the pyramidal structures is they're rounded, they're not angular. You can tell people that they're step pyramids. But if they are 1 million, 2 million, 10 million years old, the weathering has beaten them down, so they look like mountains. Now, in the case of the D&M Pyramid, that's very distinctive pyramidal structure. But both of us, I had Gene Ward on the program recently, and he shows me pyramids. If you're not trained to see the integrity, the structural formations, and recognize it as a pyramid, the average Joe's going to go, what do you got there? Now, in this case, this is why Rogan's all excited. This is a solid geometric square.
Right.
And Bill's saying that he believes it's a fortress. Well, what do we think the size of this thing is? Is it like miles in diameter? What's the estimate?
It's a mile. It's a mile from one side to the other.
It's a mile from end to end.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next question, George, that you might be able to answer is, what do we believe the height of the walls are?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to tell you. You'd have to talk to Bill about something like that. You'd have to go by shadowing and, measurements like that. But they're not, it's like Empire State Building. I don't know how high these would be. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but if you look around, you can probably see or notice the lack of rubble. So they weren't too high to begin with, and the remnants there, I'd have to do some calculations to measure it. I haven't.
But I mean, I guess to be more precise, everything on Mars, the height of the pyramids, like some of them are like half a mile, tall or a quarter mile tall. Are they obscenely tall? Just speculating. Are they something like 200 feet tall or 100 feet tall, or is it just too hard to know?
Well, I'd just be wild guessing. But if you look at the shadows, of course, I don't know what the sun angle is on this offhand, but if taking into account that structure, the square is 5,000 feet, mile across, I would guess that they're going to be, 50 to 100 feet.
That's huge. Yeah,
they're big, and they also look like they're kind of uniform in height. Nothing really pops out that it's bigger. They all look kind of
And you have to remember too, the gravity on Mars is so much less than Earth. So there is there is that factor that things can be built larger without the same gravitational effects. So, but I'm just guessing.
Right, and this is just a still here from Joe Rogan, where he was showing it on his program. This is what lit the whole fire with this. And he had Elon Musk on, and Elon said, we need to send astronauts there to investigate it, see what it looks like. So it did get a lot of attention. Yeah. And even Neil Tyson, he got in on it. He didn't want to be left out. And he's a real character. Yeah. I think I can say that. If you watch this video, you just click in, the square structure on Mars. What is it? And for half of this, it's only a 10-minute video, but for most of it, he just criticizes it and says that it's pareidolia, and we don't need to really take this seriously. But then at the end of the video, the last couple sentences, he says that I'm not saying it's not interesting. If you want to investigate geometric structures, and he goes like, okay, maybe we can fold that into a mission. So that's his statement. Like, he kind of says we should look at it seriously at the end.
I mean, Tyson is on the orthodox side of everything. Exactly, I don't consider him much of a spokesperson for anything anomalous.
I only put this in here because he says that we need to look at it. So.
Oh, well, but I mean, what did Musk say in terms of mission time factors?
Well, he kind of stepped out of this for a while when he was, involved in Doge and all that. They were burning Tesla parking lots, and he got into a lot of, political problems. So, and then everybody forgot about this, structure. I find that very interesting that, he got involved in the government, And all the excitement about this square structure kind of like died away pretty quickly. As you said earlier, what does NASA think of this? Well, because this was getting all this attention in the media, NASA finally came out and they had to make a statement. When they make a statement about a structure, like Bill said, it's probably anomalous and they don't know what to do and they're trying to put the brakes on it. And so they said it was nothing but a tectonic forces created this fault line. Now, the weird thing is they use this picture as an example of a 90-degree angle. But the problem is if you go on the website and find out where the image is and you go to the context image, this is all part of a whole system of faults and things that are all connected. And this is just silliness. They've actually zoomed in on a corner and they're trying to say, oh, this is the same thing as the square that you're all talking about, which is ridiculous.
So this feature is caused by an earthquake. Is that what they're showing us?
Well, they're saying that this is a tectonic feature.
Well, what does that mean, Bill?
It's they don't have plate tectonics on Mars, at least not at the current time, but it's a seismic event, they would say. But how do you get those are grooves in the surface. They're not walls, they're grooves, and it's not 90 degrees. It's off 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's not.
The square structure has 90-degree corners, and it's a square formation. So to say this, but NASA, they dance around things.
But this was their response. This is as good as they could get.
Yeah, George, why do they have so much problems with artificiality? Is it just the fact that the Brookings Institute is holding them by the balls and they just can't consider anything artificial because that would spill the beans that there was once a civilization on Mars? Well,
you just made the leap. That's what how do they explain it? If they would come out and say that we found a structure, just one, what's that doing on Mars? You're opening up a whole can of worms of how did it get there? Did we come from Mars? Does this influence Christianity? What do the Muslims think? Do they want to blow something up now that there's something on Mars? It's like they're scared to death of the cultures all around the world. And some of the cultures are pretty violent.
So they're adherent to a document requisitioned in 1960 by the Brookings Institute. And I think they adhere to that, yes. They just can't move beyond it because of their inability to function within current norms. And I say that because I think the disclosure of a ancient lost civilization on Mars would be a nice opening to the whole UAP factors that we're dealing with here on Earth. But Bill, what do you say to that?
Well, sure. The mainstream narrative is, our civilization on Earth is a linear progression from 10,000 years ago that we were hunter-gatherers and we eventually got to this point, and you have as George says, you have the religious text. But George and I covered a lot of this in our first book about the ancient manuscripts from Mesopotamia, and they talked about higher civilization that from the past, and people ignore it. They discuss planets, and how did people know about planets? The planet Mars, for instance, the Romans and the Greeks and Mesopotamians all knew about the planet Mars. You don't have telescopes; it just looks like another star. Of course, they studied movements, but and Mars was the god of war, and we see a lot of destruction on Mars in terms of rubble and things that may have once been, like the square structure, may have once been buildings or fortresses or whatever. It throws the whole narrative off. The scientific mainstream narrative. It just gets destroyed if there was another civilization, high civilization on Mars, and beings equal to, Homo sapiens in terms of their ability to build things. Mm-hmm. I think it just, as George said, it opens up a whole can of worms that they're not prepared to deal with at this point in time.
George, go ahead. We're looking at this image here, Arabia Terra. This is the area. Is this within the crater or is this above the crater?
No, this is a map of the whole planet here. This is that little white dot in basically the center of the picture shows you where Arabia Terra is. This is where that little square formation is.
Okay.
And if you go to the west, that area lines up just about the same area that the face on Mars is. And if you go east across that plane there and go into the blue area, That's where the Utopia area is, where they found structures also. Dr. Brandenburg talks about the formations that he found over the Utopia area. So these are all in just a parallel line here. And Bill and I have found that looking at Mars, we're finding a lot of these structures and pictographs and things that are either 30 to 40 degrees above the equator or 30 to 40 degrees below the equator. Now, if you go down here in this area here, this is where the parrot is. And that's about 30 to 40 degrees below the equator. So there's a lot of structures down in this area. There's a lot of stuff up in this area. So just like you have on Earth.
This was a heavily populated area then, right, George?
Oh, yeah. Just like you have on Earth. These are the sweet spots. That's where you want to be.
Is the blue where the ocean was, or one of the big oceans?
Well, this is a topographical type map, and the blue is the lowest, so that's probably where the water would be. That's the oceans. This would be a huge interior ocean. This would be all the oceans. Of course, Cydonia is right on the coast, where the face on Mars is in the D&M. The Parrot is right over here. This would be a port city next to this huge lake or interior ocean, because this is pretty large. These were caused by craters. This is the Helios, I think. So these are huge cratered areas that have very low spots. And so just imagining this would be where all the water is.
So is this close to Atlantis Chaos, where that whole area is, that is right by a lakeside?
That's over here, where you can see my cursor over here. That's Atlantis Chaos is way over here.
Okay, because that was
where all the grid city and all that stuff. Yeah,
right.
That's where that is.
Right. So Bill was mentioning that the square, the fortress, is on the edge of a cliff. Is there a natural ravine, or I think Bill was suggesting a river that was just...
See this area down here, Cliff? This is the square-shaped structure. This is in a Mars reconnaissance orbiter image, and you can see down here, this is where the ridge is, and this looks like there was water down here. Like this is right on the side of a cliff where there was water. So that would be a great place to have a fortress.
Yeah, it's funny because of that picture, George. It looks like the edge of the walls are right on the right on the riverbed.
Well, this goes down. This is up. This is lower.
Yeah.
So it's right on the corner of the ridge.
Yeah.
And we compare that idea with terrestrial fortresses like Masada and other things like that. It's a very defensive type of structure, I think. And the other thing, Cliff, that this formation has a north to south orientation. This corner here is at the north. This bottom corner, like a diamond, is at the southern end. So it's in a north to south orientation.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you both a question, and I know I'm going to hear it from both of you, but Gene Ward recently said that he believes the most recent civilization was roughly 20,000 years ago. And I asked him, that goes in the face of Brandenburg, who says hundreds of millions of years. It goes in the face of George Haas, our friend.
No, it doesn't. Yep. I speculate that the formations on Mars, according to the Maya, the Maya Star War discussion, where the Maya talked about this connection with Mars and this battle that went on, that it went 1 million years ago and then 22,000 years ago. So Ward is correct in that. I'm sure he probably read my book where he got the 20,000 year mark. And the Maya equate that with two different conflicts they had with Mars. One was 22,000 years ago. And Bill and I years ago thought that most of these structures were no more than, between 20, 50, 60,000 years old. Wasn't that correct, Bill?
Yeah, I think I had mentioned one time that I thought 20,000 for what we were looking at in Cydonia.
They're not that old, Cliff.
Okay, well, let's go back again. Let's look at Brandenburg's hypothesis. 2 nuclear bombs go off the size of the Empire State Building, wipe out the atmosphere, and so we're getting brutal erosion, and this is what we're looking at now.
You're looking at ruins. Now, I'm glad you brought up Brandenburg, because we have 3 examples, all right, I use when I talk about this structure, is that you have the Maya Star War, which they said happened about 1 million years ago. You have Dr. Brandenburg, the nuclear bomb went off on Mars 1 million years ago.
1 million years.
He says 1 million. So, and then we have another person mentioning, this is 3 examples dating this war on Mars about 1 million years ago. We have a CIA agent named Joe McMonagle. Do you know him?
This is a newbie. I
Oh
don't
well,
know
he's
this.
got videos on the internet. He was a CIA agent in the 1980s, and he was part of the this group of agents that were doing remote viewing.
Oh yeah.
So he's a remote viewer, and he said that there was a civilization. And this is through his research with his group back in the CIA back in the 1980s. That through their remote viewing, they saw the destruction of Mars about 1 million years ago.
Okay, well, is that part of the SRI group?
I don't know what he's part of. He was CIA.
Okay, well, the SRI in Menlo Park, California, are the ones who trained the.
Well, he was part of the group with the Staring at Goats movie. That's the same group. I mean, in real life.
Is that MK Ultra?
Pretty close to that. So I'll spell his last name for you. It's Joe McMoneagle. McMonagle.
Sitting at McMoneagle. I'll look him up.
He's probably in his 80s right now, but you can find his old video from the 80s. I think he was doing a talk somewhere, and he looks to be a young guy then back in the 80s.
George, we need to have somebody. We need to have somebody from JPL who just tells the organization that I'm not going to agree to my non-disclosure agreement anymore. I'm going to spill the beans, because I know every time I have you on the program, I laugh because they're spending $2.5 billion on each rover. And I have this joke where the rover is bumping in the staircases, columns from temples and stuff, but they're still looking for microbes. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's what their plan is. Within the next, I think, few years, they will say they found microbial life. That'll be the first step. And once they get to, well, I think that's just their timeline. First, it's going to be microbial life. Get the public used to that, and then they'll go on for saying they found some artificial stuff.
Well, is
probably nothing we've seen. They probably have examples that look very safe that they can show the public.
Is Elon an insider, or would he break the secrecy and get on boots on the ground in Mars and expose NASA for their crimes of I don't want to say collusion, but lack of transparency?
Yeah, I think Elon would be someone that would break away, but he has to work with NASA because they're providing him launching pads and all this access. He basically runs the space program right now.
Yeah,
they're using talk about other people.
Yeah. So you don't think that he would be the one? I mean, it's either him or China. China's got the resources to build the rover and to jump on to the moon or to Mars. I mean, they've already been on the moon.
I hate to disappoint you, Cliff, but I don't think China is going to be announcing they found any structures on the moon or Mars, because they're a communist culture. And in communism, the government is superior. They get rid of a religion. They get rid of gods. They don't want to have their public to know there was some advanced civilization before their emperor. They're the communists. They don't want nothing to do with that.
So we're screwed.
When they go to the moon and Mars, is they're going to build bases. It's all military for them. And anything they find, they will destroy because it goes against their government. They are the superior. See, that's communist government. They run everything. You can't have anybody above the government. Think about it.
Well, I mean, that's not good news then. I mean,
and the Russians will do the same thing. Nobody's better than Vladimir. Nothing is superior to him. You can't have it.
I don't know about that, because they sent two probes to Phobos 1 and 2, and one of them was knocked off course and the other one was destroyed. But before it was destroyed, they imaged what looked like a saucer craft, and that was
the cigar shape. Yeah, but that was leaked, and they denied it. They said that was just an artifact in the image.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
I wouldn't have any. I'd put more hope in Elon Musk.
I don't know.
Or maybe William Saunders and George Haas. Maybe they'll get this out there.
Well, maybe Bill can build his own craft and get it to Mars.
I don't know. He's good with rocks, but I don't know about machinery. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I don't think that's my expertise. I have trouble keeping my car running.
Go ahead. Cliff, what's this? Steve Maxwell.
Yeah. Stephen here, he actually did a science paper. We were doing research on this. I didn't even know this had come out. This was a paper he did in 2021, and he did a whole analysis of the square formation. Nobody paid attention to it, and but he's footnoted in our paper. And what he did was he looked at the interior alignments that were in the structure, and he used some type of process, an imaging process that I'm not familiar with, that brought up this detail. I tried doing some enhancements, and all he was working with was the original Mars Global Surveyor image. And I couldn't reproduce this, but I just put this in my slideshow here to show people there was actually someone else looking at this. And
is his work this red outline on the right?
Yes, this is all his.
And what is he seeing? Are these rooms, or are they part of a multi-layered, multi-storied building of some kind?
Yeah, he's saying that, like Bill has suggested, that this was a walled city, and these are evidence of some of the buildings that were inside. And that's what his paper talks about.
George, do I have that photograph that you can send me as an individual on the PDF?
Yep. I'll send you a link to his paper. The link to his paper's in the paper.
Oh, I hear you. Okay.
So you can just go. He actually has two papers. One he published in the beginning of the year, and then he did an update, and it was published again.
What is his PhD in, George?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't think it's he's not a physicist or that type of, he's not a geologist. It's some kind of, I think it's more of a medical.
It's almost like anybody having to do with space work automatically signs a non-disclosure agreement to spill the beans on obvious geoforms like this. It just blows me away.
Well, this next image, this is on the left is from Stephen's paper. And then I found this aerial photograph of these ruins in Iran, which is a square type fortress with structures inside. Very similar to what we're seeing on Mars.
Yeah.
When Bill and I were looking at the Mars Global Surveyor image, most people were just focusing on the square. But I found there's a rectangular shape here. And over here, there's these four little circular mounds. And we had our friend James Miller do measurements of all these. And these are perfectly separated by the same amount of space. I mean, they're perfectly the separation, the measurement in between. It's all consistent. It's pretty amazing.
Well, that's an interesting note, George, because if H is a pyramidal structure of some kind, it sits right on the wall of the building. So maybe there isn't a complete wall for that side of the square.
Yeah. Well, in other images, it seems to be a little further away from that line. This is the original Mars Global Surveyor image. And to actually get the correct alignment of things, you got to look for things that are, that the nadir is directly overhead. So it's a little distracted here about where that lies, but they're separated. They're very close. That number, that lowercase h, is pretty close.
So what did Bill say about the height of his estimate? Bill was 100 feet tall. So F and G, are they equally as high?
Yeah, they look to be. I was guessing 50 to 100 feet, but like I said, that's just guessing. But if you notice the capital C, the bottom of the large square, it looks like a pyramidal formation too. If you look at all four corners, it looks like there could have been turrets. You know how
I hear
any walled fortress or prison or anything, they have turrets on the corners
and especially down here for defensive reasons.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is the small rectangle on the left. George has lines on it, but it's very geometric as well. It's a perfect rectangle. So you have two, not just one, but you have two geometric structures side by side. I don't know if you could calculate the odds of that happening by chance.
And George, you felt that the total circumference was approximately of the square was a mile.
Yeah, there's measuring tools. I mean, you look at the ancillary data and it tells you how wide the pixels are. And Jim, our good friend Jim Miller, he does or James Miller, as he goes in the scientific community. He measured all this for us, and it's all in the paper.
Okay. One thing I didn't ask you is what was the review and if there were any criticisms by the Journal of Astrobiology? First of all, what were the response? And secondly, was it Robert Schoch that gave you access to that journal, or have you published there before? That's a lot of questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, we've never published there. That journal was recommended by Robert Schoch.
Oh,
He
okay.
said try this one, and we did, and we got in. So, but I don't know what his relationship is with them. And the peer review was pretty short. They changed the name of the paper. They wanted us to add a few other things. I don't think they changed anything to the geology write up. Do you, Bill?
No, I think their adjustments to the paper were pretty minor. I do remember their comments back to me a few times where you're very interesting paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because geologists are kind of black and white. Of course, Bill, this is talking about your field. It's like if the evidence is there, it's almost like, yes, that makes sense. I kind of understand where you're coming from. Whereas if it's a somebody in space scientist or a planetary science, this kind of anomaly is just completely unacceptable.
Well,
It's like they can't stretch their creative mind that this is an intelligent design, I guess is the term I'm using.
well, the thing is, on Earth, you can have direct boots on the ground. You can have in your face investigation, taking samples and measurements and everything else. Where when you're looking at something that's 90 million miles away, you can't do that. You can only surmise by what your processes and your knowledge of similar looking things on Earth and transpose that to what you're seeing. And I always have a difficulty with the fact that there is such a large discrepancy in the amount of gravity. So how will things form there compared to here? Just because of that, obviously you have more atmospheric pressure here than you do there. So, but yeah, no, nobody who's a professional has any other professional at stake. They don't want to stick their neck out too far. Their reputation is important. Usually, people who are, although Robert Schoch doesn't seem he's with a Boston University, so he seems to be able to stick his neck out a little further than you might think.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like they're looking at the facts, not looking at the possibilities. It's like, geometric shapes, squares, circles, pyramidal, octagon, whatever.
Yeah,
And
well, that's why, George and Robert and I did this paper because geometry, you can see it. You don't have to go and be faced right up with your face to it to see that it's a square. Well, I guess a mile long, you'd have to be further away than that, but you can see because of the photograph, you can see it's geometric. You don't have to go there to see it.
yeah, but George, you made a great point that when JPL reacted to Rogan's assertions that this was once a building, and I forget who his guest was that made the original assertion. JPL comes out with their version of geometric shapes, which is that weird geological earthquake formation or whatever the hell they
Yeah,
called it.
that's like I think that was like a fault line or something that they were trying to compare it to.
Why not accept what we have? Why try to cover it with some bullshit? Is my
Well, I thought it would have been fine if they compared it to something that was comparable, but this was just like apples and oranges, as they say. It
I
was
mean,
silly.
anybody could see that it's not the same by any means whatsoever,
And this picture that we're looking at now is in Cydonia, right?
Yes,
This
this
is
was the
this
one
is
that
this is a different square structure altogether. Again, it's a square, although one corner is missing, but you can surmise that it was.
George, tell us about this. Give us describe it for us.
this was something that Mark Corlado, Mark Corlado, he had found this. He did a paper on this back in 2002. And this is just an indentation. It's like an impression of a square. And it holds up in a bunch of other pictures. But I just put this in here just to give an example that there are other formations on Mars that are square shaped.
Mhm.
And this is just a comparison of a square that was incomplete. This was all probably plowed over by something, erosion or whatever. This is American Indian Mound in Ohio. And the interesting thing is, Cliff, there's your name right there. Again, this has that north to south orientation. It's like a diamond. The same thing with the American Indian mound. It's north to south orientation.
What's the circumference of that square, George?
Well, it's very significant. we'll get to that in a few minutes about its history. This is another square shape. I put this one in the slides here because it shows that this isn't complete either. It's all it's eroded, it's collapsed. This is over in Afghanistan. This is covered by sand.
Yeah.
So that's not on, this is on Earth. But, it could be on Mars, and people say, oh, no, that's not a structure because it's not complete. But yeah, it's got sand covering parts of it.
Question to either one of you. Have they attached a LiDAR camera to any of the sunrise satellites or any of the satellites they're using?
On Mars?
Yeah.
Well, they really don't need to, Cliff, because the LiDAR penetrates through the foliage. There's no plant life on Mars.
No, but the image...
This is a LiDAR image.
Yeah, but
we're talking about ground penetrating radar?
No, LiDAR, because what it does is it clears out and identifies perfect squares and buildings in a more detailed way. And you can set it for multi-layer too. You can set it for height, width, and depth.
Right.
But it doesn't go to more than a few feet. Just question.
Not that I know of.
Okay. I couldn't tell you for sure.
Okay.
Here's another example. This is on Earth. This is another ruins of a square shaped, looks like, again, another fortress wall. This is in Honduras. This is a LiDAR image. And again, you have that north to south orientation, like the diamond. This is Masada, which is right on the cliff here. See the structure? The fortress goes right out to the edge. We use this as an example in the book just to show people, that it's built on the corner of the ridge there.
What's the drop off there, George? Is that like 200-300
that's pretty
feet?
far. You can see how, a human you can't even see here because they'd be so, I don't know if these are people here, but it's just pretty far down.
Okay.
So it's a pretty high cliff. And this is where the Romans attacked the Israelites back in the day. This is one of the last battles of Masada there. And this is a new image that I just found in Nubabi. And this is over in Jordan. I was looking on the internet for something else, and then I found this, and I said, oh my God, this looks just like the orientation of the square on Mars. Again, you have this is a fortress, an ancient fortress from 100 BC in Jordan. And this is that wall that Bill was talking about, that is possibly just a fortification. And again, this is right on the cliff. The cliff goes down right here, as you can see how it goes further down. The same type of defensive orientation that we're seeing on Mars. It's pretty remarkable.
It is pretty remarkable. Question for either one of you. Bill, when we see these images of Mars and we see these images of Earth, do we think that the Martians were human-like, like us? Or do we have any there's no way to know. There's no skeletal remains, obviously, but it's like there's a similar intelligence involved here.
Well, in our books, my last book, I go through some of Sitchin's translations of Sumerian texts, and basically my view is that there was simultaneous civilizations on Earth and Mars, and they were both started by the same group of people. As most people refer to them as the Anunnaki. And so I'm sure the influence that they had on human beings, maybe they took human beings to Mars to work there as well. It's interesting that George and I have found all these cultural relationships between Mars and Earth with the Maya civilization. We have the religious artifacts that we have on Earth. George and I have found similar things on Mars. So there was a common cultural connection. So, but once again, going back to the gravity, everything on Mars is going to be larger, right? Because it's less gravity. So I think your animal life, your plant life, everything is going to be at a larger scale. So if there is a hybrid civilization, they're going to be similar, but they're not going to be the same, exactly the same. That's my thinking anyway.
Thanks, Bill. Hey, George, so are we saying that the Maya in their earliest phase had propulsion systems to take them to Mars? Is that your thinking?
No. This story about the Maya Star War that I talk about in the book, the last chapter there, the Maya did what the archaeologists they do a lot of reenactments, ceremonial stuff. They reenact, the lords or the king of this area would take on the persona of an ancient god from the past.
Right.
And what the Maya, they weren't the ones having the Star War between Earth and Mars. It was the other culture that bestowed all this information onto them. It wasn't really the Maya. This is just lost information. We don't know who these people were, but the Maya had it in their history. And when they built a new pyramid and they had ceremonies, they would reenact these ancient gods and these stories.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, actually the Aztec, they had what they called what was it? They did reenactments of ancient battles.
Right.
I think they were called the Flower Wars. And the Aztec would have a relationship with one of the settlements, far to the west, and the lords of each of the communities would have this agreement that they'd have this ceremonial battle, which they're reenacting these battles between Earth and Mars with the Mars beast and things like that. And they would not kill the enemy; they would capture them as slaves. But they did this every so often during these ceremonies. These reenactments are kind of like what we do with the Civil War. People have these Civil War reenactments, the Revolutionary War reenactments. We have medieval times where they do the jousting. It's the same idea.
Yeah. Of the 4 codices we have left, doesn't the Madrid Codice have a lot of real interesting Mars-related planetary study in it?
The most,
or is that Venus?
The codex that talks about Mars mostly is the Dresden Codex.
The Dresden Codex. But I mean, they're making some very specific observations, right? They're not just saying, well, here's the planet. They're using it in a whole bunch of calculations, I think.
Well, yeah, they have calculated the orbit of Mars around the sun. I mean, very, precise.
Yeah.
It's very interesting where they got all this information just from observing the planets with their eyes. They had a lot of detail. And the Dresden Codex talks about this, the Mars beast is the symbol of Mars.
Right.
And it talks about, war, battle, things like that, which goes right back to the whole idea of this whole ancient knowledge that the Maya had kept about this, what the archaeologists call a star war between the Maya in Tikal, Cozumel, with a place they called Six Earth Place, which was Mars, which was represented by the Mars beast. So it's pretty interesting. Makes it a great read in my book. If
we got to push the book
Great Architects of Mars.
Before we move on, obviously, when we're looking at this ruin, the square ruin, it's in a very dilapidated state. You would hope that you would wish that there would be some walls or a roof or more structure to it. Are we looking at the evidence of a nuclear war? Are we looking at the evidence of horrific land tsunamis? If you were to theorize, Bill, what the cause of the damage is, what would you say?
Brandenburg talked about evidence of the isotopes, evidence of nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
I think that would be the earliest, what was it, million years ago? But the most recent ones, I think, were a different type of weapon. Something that would destroy without necessarily making the place uninhabitable. But we don't know when Mars had an atmosphere. We don't know when they lost it.
Right.
But my thinking is whatever caused the loss of the atmosphere was what happened in the last war that was on Mars. In my book, as I said, I go into some of the translations that Sitchin did, and they talk about the 7 deadly weapons, and they don't describe what they were, but that they were used in the battle, and they were used in Sodom and Gomorrah on Earth, and there's evidence of destruction there, and there is some radiation. So I'm thinking there was a big battle, Earth and Mars, and we survived, and Mars didn't. But I couldn't tell you what kind of weapons. I just don't think they were nuclear, but I think they were something along the same lines because of massive destruction.
What do you say, George? What do you say in terms of the destruction of these ruins, the causation?
Yeah, I'm in line to think similar to what Bill has come up with, that there was some type of battle that went on Mars, and all you can do is speculate. I mean, was it extraterrestrials that they were battling with? Was it the culture that helped the humans evolve? Did they end up fighting each other? It's hard to tell. But whatever happened, Mars was destroyed, and humanity flourished on Earth. And we find evidence of ruins on the moon and on Mars. And Zechariah Sitchin, he talks about the Sumerians saying they had bases on the moon and Mars at one time. And we're finding ruins. So there's some kind of connection. And then, of course, we have that story from the Maya with the Maya Star Wars. They talk about a conflict between Earth and Mars.
Right.
In India, we have stories of their ancient gods, having battles in the skies, and again there was battles of the gods. So,
yeah, it's the Mahabharata. Yeah.
Right. So it's there's probably some truth to all of these ancient stories, and now we're finding these ruins on Mars, and the only way we're going to know is to go there, and I'm sure we'll find some of the structures, pyramidal things I've come across are in much better shape than this.
Yeah.
And it may talk about that two different time periods between the first battle a million years ago and then the last one about 22,000 years ago. And there may be some surviving technology there. So,
yeah.
And the Chinese will get it first.
Okay. Hey, so do we have any other examples that you want to show in this slide presentation? Because you went through a few that I hadn't seen before. We just saw that one, Masada.
Well, I usually end with this one. This is the District of Columbia, which is, the Washington, D.C. And the founding fathers built the perimeters of this sacred capital of America in the same opposing corners, this north to south orientation, which is just like we're finding on Mars.
But there's no actual.
It's like a family tradition.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? This is in our DNA. This is what we build. This is what we do.
Where is the obelisk in this? Is it where the city is? I can't see.
Oh, you mean the Washington Monument?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in here. This is the main city. I think the White House is like right there, right in the center.
When was this map made? Like in the 1800s?
1862.
1862.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, they have little pegs all around here where all of the I don't know how many they are. I can't remember right now. But as you know, over the years, they've given parts of this back to Maryland and Virginia. So we really don't have the original square shape. As America disintegrates with its history and they forget things, they start to break things up. So this is the way it was meant to be. The District of Columbia is not a state. You have some people in the Democratic Party that want to make DC a state. It's a district. It's not a state. And it was set up that way for the government. But but it no longer has that square shape to it. That's been whittled away over time.
So as researchers, both of you obviously find this of incredible importance. When do we begin, and I'm asking for you to prophesize, if you want to call it that, when do we begin getting hints that I'm just going to call it government. You might even classify it as, even though JPL would not like to be considered military, I think they are under the military guise and leadership. When do we get hints? Does it have to be in your face, like the face on Mars exposure? But when do we get an idea and kind of a release date that they're beginning to release data here and there that exposes the artificiality and the evidence of ancient culture on Mars? Either one.
Well, I would say, when we first started, major discussions about ETs back in the late 40s, early 50s, about 75 years. I mean, we've had disclosure basically for UAPs in the last few years. So it's taken about 75 years for that to occur. But I think evidence of past civilizations on Mars is going to be much quicker than that. I don't think it's going to be waiting for Elon Musk. I think the NASA will either by accident or on purpose show something that they can't dispute as being natural. And I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, really. But it's going to be a lot sooner than 75.
Well, let me just ask you on that note, Bill. When we had John Brandenburg on, he had found, I think it was 2 or 3 additional faces, smaller than the Cydonia face. Would it have to be something like that would wake people up and go, wait a minute, these are hominin, these are human-like faces. How are these on the planet and what does this mean?
Well, George and I have found half faces. when bifurcated faces, and when you complete them, they look like real faces. People ignore our work because they're not complete. Complete structures, they're half structures. But we have that cultural significance in the Americas, from the far north, indigenous people of North America, to the far south of South America, and they used half and bifurcated images in their artwork. And we're seeing the same thing on Mars. And but just that little fact that they're not 100% complete allows people to brush them aside.
George, same question to you. What's
Well, I'm
the
glad you asked
discovery?
the question because I got this slide up. Well, this is that book, Archaeology and Anthropology and Interstellar Communication by Douglas A. Van Koch. This is a book he invited all types of scientists, geologists, archaeologists. There's a list of them. There's like 20 of them. And their task was, how do we identify structures on another planet, like the moon, the Mars, or if we go into another solar system and we kind of like, the old survey where they wanted to see what our response was. Could we identify structures on another planet? The Brookings Institute. But the question the Brookings Institute didn't ask, which this fellow does, is that how will we identify structures on another planet? And with all of these scientists, prominent scientists that he used in this study, the conclusion was that scientists may have difficulty identifying structural markers on another planet.
And why did he say there's a problem?
Because they couldn't, they were shown things and they couldn't identify them. They would think they were just mounds. It's like American Indians. When we first came over to America, all of these mounds that the Indians built, a lot of people thought they were just hills, They were just natural mountains. There were some of the largest American Indian pyramids that people thought were mountains. They started taking them apart.
This is not good, George. This is not
No,
good.
it's not. But this is what the study found, that scientists may not be able to identify structures on it. They will explain it away, just like NASA tried to do with this square, showing us a fault line saying, oh, this is the same thing. It's nothing.
Is it because they're overeducated and the possibilities are too far-fetched for them to consider artificiality?
I think that may be part of it. But this is an interesting book, and this just came out in 2014, not that long ago.
I'll have to look it up.
Yep, it's mentioned in the paper.
Oh, as a resource or a reference?
Yeah, I think it's in there. If it isn't, I don't remember now if it's mentioned in there, but I can send you the link. Okay. I don't know how much time we have, but at the end of the paper here, or this presentation, I just
go ahead and finish up with the slides, please.
Yeah, these are some other structures. This is in the Acheron region of Mars. This here formation, see that? There's a structure up here. These things are all over the place. That's a close-up of it. Greg Orm, he's a member of the Society for Planetary SETI Research. He found this. He called it it looks like a slice of bread, he called it.
Yeah.
And if you look on the left here, that's a structure from Russia. It's an ancient structure that they were digging up, and it almost looks like identical. Pretty amazing. Now, this is raised. If you're not having trouble looking at this, this is actually not an indented shape. This is a wall. These are walls, just like we have over here.
Right.
Here's another, I call this 3 rooms. This is, see the walls? Just ruins. Another, linear walled structure. This end here appears to have been collapsed. And of course, you got Atlantis Chaos. This is, what you were asking about Atlantis Chaos?
Yeah.
This is on the western side of that grid city.
I've never seen this image before.
Well, brace yourself. You see the square here? There it is. And It's got a dome in the middle. This has more lines than the square we were just looking at. And this is right on the other side of this lake. You got Atlantis Chaos on one side, we call it the Atlantis, Martian Atlantis. This is on the other side, and this is a square and dome, and there it is outlined. It's remarkable.
You think that's an observatory of some kind?
Well, normally, when you would build a interior wall, this is an impression here, and then you got the dome. I don't know what this form is here. This is either some kind of doorway. You got a little knob here. I mean, if you get down to the detail, because this looks like this might be the entranceway here because it's all dark. But yeah, and of course we have the same idea on Earth. The circle and the square, Cliff. These are opposing geometry.
Right.
You have the circle within the square. they're totally opposites. You know, one's round, the other one obviously has the four sides. So again, you're doing with duality, like, you know, the face on Mars and things like that. And I were talking about. So you're seeing the same idea of duality everywhere. This is in the Amazons. It's another one of these square mounds with a circle in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. As we see on Earth, we're finding on Mars.
Compasses, the circle and the square, the set of compasses.
Yeah, the circle, right. The Freemasons, you know, they have the square and compasses. Mm-hmm. The compass makes the circle and the square makes a square. This is an old mound that was found out in the Aborigine area of Australia. And this is fenced off. So people can't, right. So people can't go in there and drive over it like they do out in the Midwest with some of those ancient Indian pictographs out there. You know, you've seen the man fishing. He's got tire marks over him that people didn't preserve it. And of course, there's that great book, The Great Architects of Mars, at the end.
Yeah, I love that cover. They did a good job on the cover.
You know, I get so many compliments about the cover. The publisher did the cover, but a lot of people do like it.
Yeah, no, I do too. Fantastic.
My cover was a whole different idea. They threw that away.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. I love it. Fantastic. Hey, Bill, George, wonderful having you guys on the program. We continue to offer the evidence for artificiality. I don't know if it falls on deaf ears. If I get one new believer, I think I'm happy. I have a lot of listeners, and I think they're slowly opening their eyes to the possibilities of life on Mars thousands of years ago, but we're still looking for evidence. So as we close, any last comments? Would love to hear from you. Go ahead.
I guess I should have given
Bill
you a
has a book also.
Yeah, mine is called the where have I got a copy of it? Well, here. Let me grab it here. Yeah, mine's called The Lost Worlds of Earth and Mars. And the face on the cover is on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, but only half a face. And get that up there.
I like that. Nice.
So yeah, I came out a couple of years ago now, and yeah, it's I think you'd find it a fascinating read.
Fantastic. George?
Yeah, one last thing before we close out. Bill and I are currently working on another science paper, and possibly with Robert Schoch joining us. It's about the D&M Pyramid in Cydonia. So
is Molinar still with us? Dimitri Molinar, are they still?
They're still around. They occasionally make comments over. Bill and I also are members of the Society for Planetary Study Research, and occasionally they join in some of the conversations. But they're older guys now. They don't do much.
I was just curious because life. You know, it was named after them, the D&M Pyramid in the Cydonia area. I was wondering if they had new imaging of that area, you know, so you could get even more details of what the foundations look like.
Yeah, we have 2 Mars reconnaissance HiRISE images. I mean, you can get right down into the surface. Yeah, we've got a lot of images of it. We'll be talking about it in the paper.
Okay, looking forward to it. Hey, you guys, fantastic. Thanks for joining me. I will post this on the Facebook page, but also this will be available on the YouTube channel as well, so people can see the details. I really appreciate your openness, and obviously I'm on your team for greater disclosure, and all we can do is cross our fingers and hope that through some miracle, NASA, JPL begin releasing more conclusions that Mars was once populated. So I appreciate you guys joining me, and continued success.
Thanks, Cliff. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Cliff. Thanks for having us on.